Hi.
Hello.
How did the judging go? Local judging.
I mean, we finished on time, so I guess that's good. I believe we are already live, by the way.
Ah. Hello, everyone.
Hey. Hope everyone had
are-
a good weekend.
Yeah. We are just waiting on the remaining judging locations to finish up. So sorry for the delays to the stream. All right. So while we're waiting for everybody to finish gathering, we've got a video from NASA SpaceApps, which is a Q&A with Mary Cleve. Hopefully you'll find this adorable while we wait.
I've just joined. Alex, are you trying to share your screen?
Yes.
Okay, there's no sound, it seems.
Yeah, it looks like they didn't stop the video perfectly.
You want to reshare your screen?
I think... Is that working now?
I don't think the sound's working. Though it's time for the first team to call in, though, right? Is it gonna be Bristol?
Pardon? Oh, the first team?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so. Do you
Do
want
we
me to
have them?
invite the Bristol team in then?
Do we have them here?
No, I think I need to send them a link to join.
Okay. Meanwhile, we're gonna try and play a video. We're just gonna have to adjust the schedule a bit.
Cool. Should I resume the video?
Yeah, but there's no sound though.
Oh, is the sound still not working?
No. If you is it on a different machine?
Let me just reshare it just in case.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
And I'm very excited to
Is that
dive
working now?
Oh,
in
it's working. Yeah.
Cool.
Mary. But first and foremost, I just want to welcome you, Mary. Mary, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you. And I think a great place to start for those who are wondering more about your story and who you are, could you give the short intro of I'm sure there's a lot to say, but the short intro of who you are and what your background is.
Okay. I am professionally a licensed environmental engineer. But I started out in life thinking I wanted to be a veterinarian, but that didn't work out because they had a quota on women, because I'm old enough that was before Title IX, but now that's not a problem. So if I had been doing what I wanted to do, I probably never would have been on a spacecraft. So for me, it ended up being great because I got I got a job which is really, really fun. So I went to school and studied science, got a bachelor's degree in science in botany because I like plants, got a master's degree in microbial ecology because I like plants. And my botany professor told me that lower plants are what make the world go round. And I think he was right. So I got recruited into engineering because of my ability to work with lower plants, which is a little bit backwards, but that's how it worked. And it worked out really well for me.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I think as we start to dive in, we'll definitely be talking more about just your experience. But I think it's only fitting to start with a question just about your experience as an astronaut. And it's a question that was asked by a number of participants. So I wouldn't attribute this to just one person, but the question is, what motivated you to become an astronaut? And something else I'm wondering in line with that is, how did you overcome any doubts that came to mind for becoming an astronaut? It's, I'm sure that you weren't surrounded by astronauts every day, let alone women in space, which I know you've talked about before. So I'd love to hear more about that origin story for you.
Well, I think when I was a kid, if I had said to my parents I wanted to be an astronaut, they probably would have gotten me some psychological assistance because they were all, men with crew cuts, and I was a little girl. So, I mean, I never thought about being an astronaut, but I did love airplanes and I wanted to learn how to fly an airplane. So I told my mom when I was 14 that I wanted to try to take flying lessons. And my mother was fabulous. Her only brother was killed in World War II. He was a pilot, right? So her exposure to people that like to fly airplanes was disastrous. But she just looked at me and said, we had a meeting with Dad and they said, flying lessons are very
All right, so the Bristol team is just connecting now.
Hello, can you hear us and see us?
Yep.
Okay.
Test from my
nice.
side too.
Phenomenal. Okay, we've got both sides. Hi there. Sorry, we're a team that's a bit split in between quarantine regulations. So I'm Owen.
I'm Anna. And I'm Amy.
And also with us is Vid. Right. So I'll just share out my screen. I'll let you know we can make a start. Can my screen be seen? Oh, yes, I guess. That's a bit of a, hang on. That better? Please let us know when you'd like us to start. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Right, Vid, whenever you're ready.
So, in the recent years, the connection between the air pollution and respiratory diseases is getting more and more attention. However, estimating the costs of the air pollution can be hard. We are Team AeroSox, and we have developed a tool for monitoring the correlation between air particles and the spending on medicine for respiratory diseases. Air pollution has both acute and chronic effects on respiratory health, affecting a number of different systems and organs. We built a dynamic tool that maps the regional aerosol levels and national respiratory drug prescriptions. For the demonstration, we have mainly focused on the UK. We have combined satellite data on aerosol thickness with the data of NHS spending on respiratory diseases. Severity of COVID-19, for example, has been linked to the air pollution, making our tool highly relevant and directly applicable to the real-world situation.
Aerosols can be dust particles, smoke, pollution from factories, and the amount of aerosols can be probed through satellites by looking at their spectral signature in the atmosphere. For healthcare studies, more often than not, ground-based sensors were used rather than satellite images. But a lot of Earth observation data is freely available and perfect for this application. To link air quality and health effects, we looked at NASA Earth observation data collected by Aqua Modis. We're using monthly data on the aerosol optical thickness at a resolution of 0.1 degrees, so that's 10 by 10 kilometers. We zoomed in on the UK and visualized the aerosol optical thickness as a function of time. The graph on the left shows the mean optical thickness of the UK for the last 5 years. We started with monthly data for now, but we would like to look at higher temporal resolution data at some point post this hackathon. Studying the impact of air quality on health is difficult, as data needs to be collected, geolocated, and anonymized for confidentiality. The data collection can often also be very expensive. So here we're using drug prescription data as a proxy indicator of what conditions are affecting people. This data is anonymous, freely available, geolocated, and in the UK, it is uploaded daily through the NHS. The graph on the left shows shows the prescription dynamics of the asthma drug salbutamol and how it changes with NASA air quality data over the last 5 years across the UK. Here we can already see the delay in an increase in this prescription of salbutamol after an increase in the aerosol levels. We plan to further investigate these trends and other respiratory prescriptions to model how health and air quality from satellite images are related. As the NHS data also contains information on cost of prescriptions, we can very easily link the negative effect of air pollution to cost. The UK was used as a proof of concept in this work. However, we plan to expand this tool globally wherever data on purchasing prescriptions can be found.
The method we have developed has unique opportunities when scaled across the globe. This system works in rural areas without reliable electricity or connectivity where ground-based air quality sensors have not been placed. This allows for the effects of air pollution to be understood globally in areas that have been neglected. Furthermore, by building predictive models in areas where we have good prescribing data, we can predict need for drugs in areas that are undersupplied and have no current prescribing data. This data is highly useful both for public health services and countries where air pollution is developing rapidly, but also to pharmaceutical suppliers who can better forecast regional demand. Finally, our model can be extended to any combination of Earth observation data and prescription data, allowing for many new discoveries to be made. While we were principally interested in what can be achieved without ground-based air quality sensors, satellite air quality sensor data can also be combined with ground data to create new business opportunities. Satellite-based mapping of atmospheric quality offers several advantages over sensor-based systems, particularly for exterior environments. However, there are several affordable and highly accurate sensors that can be used indoors. By combining these two datasets together, we can give consumers a comprehensive information on their exposure to pollution. Our team is really excited to explore the opportunities created by these datasets. Our backgrounds are in data science, medicine and life sciences, physics, and business development, giving us the ability to rapidly take this idea to the next level. And we're hoping to go there. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. I'm going to bring Alex, Bristol, team lead Bristol. Alex, do you want to just wrap it up? Got 3 minutes before the next team.
Thank you very much. I heard your presentation before, but unfortunately I missed most of this one because it dropped me out of the stream. But yeah, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here.
Great. And I think we have the team lead from Glasgow, which is the next city up. So I'm going to bring in Awais. Awais, how are you?
I'm good, Jen. Thank you.
Good.
Great presentation by Bristol.
Yeah, so we're just gonna wait for the team to join. I've got a person named Duncan. Is he from Glasgow or not?
Yes, that's the winning team.
Okay, one of the team. Oh, perfect. Is there only one person joining from Glasgow?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we can bring him in then.
Yeah.
Do you want to just introduce the team quickly, Awais?
Yes, Duncan is one-person team from Glasgow. He's working on the orbital space challenge. And Duncan, you can introduce yourself and your solution.
I'm Duncan, and I'm the sole member of the What's in Space team. I'll share my screen here. You guys able to see my screen there? Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so I'm Duncan, and I'm the sole member of the What's in Space team. I've decided to tackle the Orbital Sky Challenge and develop a solution to provide awareness, enthusiasm, and a greater understanding of space. A prototype is available right now. I'll just send you the link. It's available, and it provides a visualization and a platform of space. So What's in Space is a platform that visualizes space and brings it down to Earth through the web and provides an easy understanding of what is going on up there, down here. The application, upon loading, will load all the catalogued and tracked objects by NORAD in their current positions accurate in real time. Once you're in the application, all the objects that are tracked and catalogued will move in real time, dictating their real position relative to the Earth. Upon selection of an object, you can receive more information of the object, where it's from, the size of it, its launch date, and its orbital elements. This straight away provides a good visualization of how much is actually in space, and also what actually is up there. Once you're in the application, you will be able to filter through various types of objects. So you will almost immediately realize that in space there is a much larger proportion of debris than there is of actual active satellites. For example, here we have 11,487 catalogue pieces of debris. Payloads, we only have 5,664. So it's already bringing a good understanding of what is actually up there in space, even though in reality those numbers are actually a lot larger. Furthermore, you will be able to look at the constellations that are available. Sorry, this should be working here in 1 second. Okay, that's not quite working. But what you are able to do as well is you can search for objects. So if we wanted to know the position of the International Space Station, here, you will be able to select the object, find it, and find its scope. I've just lost that there, sorry. You'll be able to view its current location and its orbit and trajectory until obviously its orbit propagates. Furthermore, once you're in this actual application, it's important to understand how these objects actually move and how their orbits are actually depicted. So there's an educational side of the application that allows users to be able to understand orbital motion and everything that is actually going on in space. So this section here will allow you to add objects and constellations and create your own. So we have one object here, and we can depict its orbit by adjusting its orbital elements. And it will let you know its period and its current velocity at that moment in the orbit. And already immediately it provides the user with an understanding of what the orbital elements actually define and how they actually characterize an object when it is in space. And then here, users will be able to create their own constellations. They'll be able to view ground maps that depict, that's not quite working now. They'll be able to view ground maps that depict and show the areas of coverage and the time slots that they are there. They'll also then be able to share their constellations on social medias and show each other what sort of projects they have planned. This tool is also useful in education because it obviously provides a good visualization understanding of the orbits and orbital motion. But most importantly, it could also be used in business to help customers understand their product, understand the product they're purchasing better, and also let businesses help promote and sell and help teach their customers what they're actually selling. So once you're also in the main platform, it's also important to know the history of space and what the first objects up there, and also most importantly, what we predict our future is going to look like. So once this loads up here, 1 second, you'll also be able to view a timeline of space from the first object that was ever catalogued. So we can go all the way back to 1958. First, not the first object space, but first catalogue. And we can view it there. Just click on that. Okay, it's been a bit shy. Anyway, from here, we will be able to view a visualization of how the objects in space have developed and how it's grown over the multiple years. There's also developed and built in simulation that provides an estimation of what space could look like in future years, providing a good understanding of if we don't tackle current problems that we have, this is what could arise. We could be left with a completely unusable wasteland that is unnavigatable and almost causing a serious problem to potential space exploration. I think this product is has two sides. I think it's most importantly used in education. This could be used through all levels, from younger generations to older generations. As I've showed you, there is currently built in the development that allows you to create your own orbits. But furthermore, this could also be taken down a lower level and helped used to explain just 2D gravity. And then also you could use it then to describe 3D gravity and provide a good visualization and better understanding because it's easier than just reading it from the textbook. Also to provide more enthusiasm and to inspire younger generations. there's a built-in mode that allows you to control a 3D model of NASA's space shuttle that also actually moves in real time and has a real orbital motion and movement to it. It also provides a trajectory that allows the user to then understand how objects actually move in space. And it's not as simple as just flying straight forward. Furthermore, this for the even younger generations to excite them, and also, I mean, everyone loves a bit of virtual reality. There is also a built-in virtual tour that will take you through space and provide a good representation and understanding of the geosynchronous orbits, your medium Earth orbits, and all your constellations that are up there. And it will show you them all in virtual reality that's available through a Google Cardboard or a mobile device. So where I see this project going forward is providing an almost complete platform to space down here, so that not anyone can go. Like, only very few people go up to space. Only astronauts make the full journey all the way up, and a very small amount of people actually make the journey. But I think this solution would allow many more generations, many more people to actually experience space and understand what is going on up there, down here. Does anyone else have any more questions? Thank you.
Great presentation, Duncan. Absolutely love it.
Thank you. I hope you can see everything okay.
Yeah, it was fine. It was great. I don't see any questions on YouTube.
There are no questions, but there's a bit of comments.
You can
let me just show them.
share the link on YouTube as well.
So Charles saying, oh, this is Nick from Ottawa. Actually, we've got viewers from Canada. He's saying it's a great concept and execute time. John saying it's very impressive. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for that presentation. And I'm not sure if the next team's here yet, but go ahead anyways if you've got any more things to say. Go ahead.
There is a option that allows you to look at all the constellations that are available, but the little button isn't working right now. I apologize. You would normally be able to view, for example, all your Galileo constellations with your GPS, etc.
Okay. We still have a few minutes before the next team comes on. Alex, any thoughts or anything? I'm gonna maybe we can show a short video again. Thanks for that. And we'll wait for the next team to come on.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, Alex, any we're the two kind of hosting this at the moment.
Just from my living room, you can see I've got some workshop tools, some more workshop tools, etc.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
We can show this short video, which I showed for the London judging earlier. Hang on a second.
So I've got the video from before queued up, unless you've got another one.
Yeah, this is the Margaret Hamilton one.
Cool.
Let me yeah, while we're waiting for the next team, because I don't see them yet. There's still
Hamilton, head of the team that developed the onboard flight software that landed us on the moon. She coined the term software engineering, got a special prize from NASA, got her Presidential Medal of Freedom. 50 years after the moon landing, what if she got a thank you from the moon? This is the Ivan Paul solar. Hundreds of thousands.
Let's maybe kill that and then requeue it. Yeah, it's still early for the next team. We seem to be ahead. which is good because earlier I think we had several teams presenting for London, and we were kind of running out of time for some of them. So it's great that we're actually early.
Yeah,
Let me,
definitely.
yeah, let me share this. Hang on a second.
This is Margaret Hamilton, the team that developed the onboard flight software that landed us on the moon. She coined the term software engineering, got a special prize from NASA, got her Presidential Medal of Freedom. 50 years after the moon landing, what if she got a thank you from the moon? This is the Ivanpah Solar Facility. Hundreds of thousands of car-sized mirrors reflecting the sun to create energy. But what do they do at night? What if we thought of them as pixels? Hundreds of thousands of pixels, individually positioned to reflect the moon, forming an image visible from the sky. A 1.4 square mile campus, bigger than Central Park, bigger than over 200 Eiffel Towers put together. Is that even possible? Calculate the trajectory of the moon. Find the perfect angle in Earth Studio. Record the aerial coordinates. Talk to these people in California that were in Ivanpah.
It's Pat Kosman and the operations team at Ivanpah.
Call the engineers in Israel that control the mirrors.
We have Gil and Drotem and also Neta.
Can we point at the moon to create a giant image of Margaret Hamilton made of moonlight?
Just 1 minute. I need to think about it. I can't give a positive answer yet.
Contact Margaret Hamilton. Find a photo of Margaret, make it into a tribute, make it into pixels. Translate that for 107,555 mirrors. Only one more full moon before the anniversary of the moon landing. We need to talk to Margaret.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi.
Next week, we're going to be going out and hoping to create a giant portrait of you on this entire field.
That's a lot to do between now and then.
Go to Ivanpah.
Hi, we're here from Google.
Yeah, we just arrived. It's our first time seeing the towers all lit up, which is pretty amazing.
Watch a safety video. Put on snake boots. Watch wildlife. Meet a tortoise.
Hey, tortoise.
Call Israel. More math. Wait for sundown. Position the mirrors. Track the moon. Take to the sky.
Hardware is extremely slim. 4:30 is going to be the cutoff because that's when we lose the moon.
Not high enough. 40-mile-per-hour winds. Lose communication. Adjust coordinates. Moon set. Time's up. Not tonight.
Even if we miss the target in 1 degree, you will not see anything.
Recalculate. Sunrise. Breakfast. One last chance. Moonrise. 99.3% illuminated. Steady. Climbing. Searching. Find it. 1 point in the sky. There's Ivanpah. There's the moon. There's Margaret Hamilton.
It was gorgeous, man. Like, amazing.
Take a picture. Margaret by moonlight.
Great. So I believe we have the London team now. So we're gonna bring them on. Hang on a second. Hi, Alia and Irina.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So welcome back. And Alex is from another lead from Bristol. I'm gonna bring in the other team members from London, and so yeah. So when you're ready, just share your presentation. I'm gonna remove myself and Alex, and yeah, just share your presentation, and yeah, you can get started whenever you want.
Okay. Thank you.
Jen.
Okay, so I'll get started. We're Team Spirit. So we've been working on the Create Breakthrough Challenge. And SPIRIT stands for Space Propulsion Innovations and Realistic Interplanetary Travel. So we really wanted to showcase different details of spacecraft propulsion and also put into context a bit for the users how this relates to traveling through space. So on the right here, you'll see a demo of the beginning of the app.
So it showcases achievements through time from propulsion innovations. And then it comes up with various propulsion techniques, which then have different features associated with them in the app. And we've included existing conceptual and developing the fictional propulsion types. So this shows what kind of technologies already exist and also gives references to people who might not be in the field, where they might find it interesting, get more involved in the field. So on the right here, you can see the Details tab. So you can select from our grid a particular type, for example, solid rocket motors, and then you'll be able to see a picture of the propulsion type and see the status, some advantages and potentially some risks of that technology, a little description, and also what maximum velocity you might expect from it. And that we've used in other parts of the app. So this allows you to compare different propulsion types. And then if we move on, again on the right-hand side, here you can see the immersive experience part of our app. So you can use the device camera to pan around the room and see various exoplanets, so planets outside of the solar system. And you can select one and confirm the journey, and the app will give an impression of moving through time. And then it will say that you've reached your destination and give you some details about that exoplanet. And so this really allows the user to think about where we might travel, what we might be able to discover if we use these different types of propulsion. And these planets are located on the coordinates on the app using NASA API data. So we've also delayed the notification to really emphasize the long travel times that you might experience and show how important it is to really develop these technologies further and develop faster ways of traveling through space to really get to these exciting discoveries. So on the right side here, you can see our pop culture part of the app. So this is particularly good for younger members using the app, or also those outside of the field. And so, for example, here we've chosen the liquid fuel rocket, and it showcases either a really exciting news article or some reference from a film or book that people might have read. In this case, it's the Tesla Roadster, which was launched with the Starman dummy to space, which is now orbiting the sun. So it really allows users outside of the field to engage in it, get interested in the field and in these different types of propulsion, and think about, what exciting opportunities there are in space exploration if these things are developed further. And hopefully it will also inspire people to move into this field. So there's some areas we'd like to develop further. So we'd like to add a discoveries feature, which would be really focusing on specific types of propulsion and what discoveries have been made through research into that specific propulsion, either in space exploration or through, advances on Earth, things that are really beneficial to everybody on Earth. Then another thing is customization of rocket parameters for the journey feature of the app, where you could go and journey to an exoplanet. And then the other thing is we could build upon the use of the camera of the device where we were journeying to that planet, and also include other sensors or equipment which are embedded in the user's device to provide an even more immersive experience. So that's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much, and it's been a really fun project to work on.
Thank you for that. And we managed to bring back Varun as well.
Thank you. I struggled a
and,
little bit with the internet connection, but
no worries, no worries. So yeah, thank you for that. So we'll be announcing the UK winner at around 7 p.m. So just look out for announcements in your email inbox or
okay.
yeah, or text. And thanks for the presentation again. I'm gonna bring back Alex. Alex, hi.
Hello. Thank you all for the
Thanks very
presentation.
much.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, thanks, team. So we'll see you in a bit.
Thank you.
Right, Alex. I think we're actually doing very well in terms of time.
Yeah, definitely.
Shall we continue with your video, because the next team is Newport and they're supposed to be coming on in 10 minutes, I believe. So
Okay.
we have enough time to play that video, continue
Sure.
that video. So let me re-add it to the stream.
I got enough money to pay for my first lesson. So that's how I started flying. I soloed at 16, got a private license at 17. But at that point, again, with women, the career route was being a stewardess, and I was too short by 2 inches. You used to have to be 5'4", and I was only 5'2". So that's why my career in aviation stopped then. But then when I finished my PhD in engineering, one of the other research engineers saw an ad in the Logan post office saying that NASA was looking for scientists and engineers to go work on the space shuttle, and the space shuttle hadn't flown yet. Right. So I found out that astronauts, part of their job is being current in a T-38 jet, which is a high performance jet. So I actually didn't really think about being an astronaut. All I thought about was, this is my one opportunity to have to fly a really sweet airplane. So I applied and I got in. I was lucky. And so it was a very fortunate opportunity for me. And I found out I really liked flying in spaceships too. So that worked out well.
Yeah, I think it's powerful to hear that story from you and to hear just your background. And before getting into more of your experience in space, I want to touch on this question from Marina from Sao Paulo, Brazil. We have questions from all over the world for this Q&A, but Marina asked, first and foremost, just knowing about the difficulties and prejudices that women face in the scientific world, how was it for you to go to space for the first time? And how did you navigate that?
Well, it's with jobs like being an astronaut or even being an engineer or a scientist. It's probably, it's easy to show whether you can do the job or not. And, with flying, it's really obvious whether you can fly an airplane or not. So you can demonstrate that you're competent, and you have to demonstrate you're competent. But once you do that, I never ran into any trouble with the guys. In fact, I got recruited because I was flying so much. I got recruited to work on stuff other than the research I was hired to do, so.
Yeah, that's powerful. And that's good to hear, because I mean, for a lot of reasons, but especially because thinking about the questions that we received, there were a few similar questions. And I know that looking at SPACEAPPS in the hackathon world, or the tech world in general, it's no surprise that there's that concern, or there are those questions about inclusion for women and girls. So it's good to hear that in your experience, you felt comfortable, and you felt like that was a place that you could still thrive and deliver and fly and do the incredible work you were doing as an astronaut. But just to build on what you were saying about the selection, your selection process and becoming an astronaut, someone else shared a question just about what that selection and training process was like. So could you just shine a little bit more light onto what the selection and training process is to become an astronaut for those who aren't aware?
Yeah, well, the selection process, there are two lines going into the astronaut corps. One's through the military, and those are the military flight test guys. And the other one is for civilians. We were the, doctors, scientists, and engineers that went to do research. And I was on the civilian line. And so you apply for a standard government job on a SF1, 171, I can't remember, whatever form you apply for a government job. Now, they do give you a lot of additional questionnaires about physics, your medical stuff, but you are a civil servant. My entire career, I was a civil servant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's powerful. So just building on that, another question that we had that came through is just wondering how, so you're an astronaut, you're up in space, you know, especially from a psychological perspective, how did you cope with being away from Earth? What was that experience like for you? I know that different astronauts spend different amounts of time in space, but to me, as someone who hasn't been to space, it seems like it's a journey in itself to go up into space. So could you talk about just what went through your mind and how you coped with that experience of going to space, something that so many of us could only dream of?
Well, I think a lot of people look forward to the ride. Okay. Yeah. It's a great ride because you go from nothing, sitting on the launch pad, to 25 times the speed of sound in about 7.5 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Right. 8 minutes, 10 seconds. So my first flight, I was a flight engineer on the flight, and I was working so hard. I literally didn't enjoy the ride at all because I was concentrating and working so hard. And then the main engine shut off and we just started to float. Then it was fun. But I expected this incredible experience, and what I got was, I was too focused, you know, to notice it. But on my second flight, I was deploying Magellan. I was down on the middeck all by myself. So I got to enjoy the ride because the only job I had was, if we had to bail out of the shuttle, I had to blow the side hatch and get all of us out. So I got to just have a good time, and it was an incredible ride. So, I mean, just being a passenger, there's a big difference between being crew and being a passenger.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there just to follow up on that, the second part of that question, which came from someone named Anwisha from the UK, they asked, what specific training or tools were you equipped with to minimize the risk and the negative impact of your trip to space? And they said specifically of being in an industrial environment and away from home, but we just would love to hear more about the specific training and tools.
Well, being in the space shuttle, you're in a space about the size of a large closet with people that you've trained with. But it's like, if you've ever gone winter camping, you know, where you're in a tent, you know, you don't get a lot of time outside. That's what it's like in the space shuttle. And the food is like camping food. It's dehydrated, you just heat it up and stuff. So I found a lot of similarities to life in space with a lot of the camping experience. So, and so you got to get along with your crewmates. That's really important.
Yeah, could you talk more about that? Because one thing that I know the SPACEAPPS participants can relate to is that they're forming teams. They're about to start the hackathon. Some of them, depending on where they are in the world, are starting in a few hours from now. And over the course of this weekend, they're going to be working with teams. And so they have that in common with you and others, other astronauts on the ISS and in space. They need to be able to collaborate. So I'm curious just to learn more about what that experience, that teamwork experience was like for you. Was there anything surprising about that that happened or that occurred to you as you were working with people miles and miles above Earth's surface?
Well, you train together for so long. We were training together for over a year on my first flight. You know, minimum is a year, but we were over a year because the flights kept slipping. And what I got was a bunch of brothers. I never had any brothers of my own, but it was really nice because I got to collect a few along the way. And so your interactions are not like they are in a normal workplace, but more like they are on a family camping trip.
Right.
But the thing that's really good is you get, so every single person on the crew comes with a large assortment of experiences in their background And if you get a problem, you can all apply that together. And a lot of times you'll find out about a synergy with someone as you're solving a problem.
Okay, I guess we're gonna have to get back to the swing of things in terms of presentations. And the next city to present is Newport, and Victor is here to
Hello.
introduce the team.
Yeah,
Team
hello
name now
everyone.
as well.
Yeah, so for Newport, we actually have nominated two winners, one in the business idea, crowd farming, and one in the entertainment idea, so the Breeze Destroyer. So we have chosen the Destroyer that the team is here to present in the UK Global as crowd farming was not assigned to any specific category, so they cannot battle for the NASA award. So, guys, please, the floor is yours.
Hello.
Do we want to introduce ourselves first?
Oh, I'm Liam. I'm from Bracknell.
I'm Dean. I'm currently residing in Aberdeen.
Sean, we can't hear you.
Oh, oops.
Yeah,
we're
fake
Team
that.
Debris Destroyers, and I'm Sean.
And finally, I'm Karan, and excited to be here.
Right, cool. Liam, do you want to share your screen?
If I can, I will. Oh, it doesn't seem to want to share it for some reason.
Okay.
Oh wait, I might. Can I? Is this working?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Hopefully the audio will work this time. So yeah, we're a Team Debris Destroyers. We've got a video which I'm sure you've seen before.
Game trailer.
Yep.
Yeah, tell me if you can't hear the audio.
Okay.
Can't hear it.
Oh wait.
No.
Wait, so can you hear it now?
Say it again. No, we can't hear it.
No, you're not sharing computer audio.
Oh,
If you can share it again and click on that box that says share audio at the bottom.
yeah, it says like the browser can't access your screen.
Does someone else want to share? Possible.
I could try. Is it easy with two monitors? Is that working, guys?
Okay.
Yeah, we see your screen.
Cool. Let me know if you can hear.
Space travel. Yeah, we can.
There we go.
From space debris. We've created a game to help make you informed on how to combat this. Our game includes 3D graphics, real-world NASA research, and a guaranteed good time. Our solution intends to educate, inspire, and challenge those who play. The future of space travel lies before us. Will we go to the stars, or will our journey end before it has even started?
Alright, so that's the little trailer. So we chose the orbital scrap metal challenge, and so we chose this because it just seemed really interesting and it seemed like a lot of fun, and it seemed like something attainable where we can actually have an impact. And also, you know, we've heard of it. I feel like it's fairly common knowledge. Well, I don't know, but I had heard about it before, and I really thought it was a worthwhile problem to spend time on, and it's just fun to make a video game as well, isn't it?
While we were just brainstorming ideas, these are just a few we came up with. There are quite a few more. We tried to think about how the player could interact with the objects, how those objects would be used. So some of them are like just collecting them in the net, some in a sort of space economy, and going against maybe some other different sort of companies while doing it. During the same time as we thought of the initial ideas, we looked at different ways we could like make the game in itself. Different programs we would need to use, and different designs we could look at for the entire thing. We ended up going for a tycoon based because most of the games now have some sort of customization element when it comes to the main gameplay. During that, kind of put all the other ideas into a nice, neat little package. With the economy system, you could collect the different debris around the place, like satellites, even like just normal meteors and everything like that. You could even smelt them down to create different raw materials to then either upgrade your spaceship or sell them on. Some of the items also included things you see on the slides, like the net, the magnet, and the gravity gun. Gravity gun was there to sort of show what the future could hold for collection for the space debris.
Yeah, so we decided to make it using Unity, since like Sean and I, who are the coders, have experience with C#. So we had like a simple like 3 scenes. So there's a main menu, which is where you select either the game or the economy. The second scene is just the game, where you collect the debris. First screen is the economy, which is where you can sell raw resources and use the money that you get in order to buy upgrades, so like nets and stuff. So Sean, would you like to talk about the game?
So with the spaceship, you can explore. So there's the Earth, and there's debris floating around it at high speed, and you have to go around in your spaceship and collect it. So you use different tools that you can buy from the shop using money that you've made, but you start off with a default net. And you have to collect the things, and then you can use that money in the economy section to convert it into other things and then sell it on for a profit, which helps to encourage business.
So this is some of the code that we used. I believe this is for the gravity. Sean, would you like to talk about that? I think you're the one who made this, right?
Yeah. So on the left side of the screen, you can see this is the code for the orbiting of the debris around the planet. So if you look near the bottom, you can see there's a long math equation, and that's just using the circle equation to calculate the trajectory of the debris. And then it's also got random elements to make sure they're different and look unique. And on the right side, that's just the code for the controlling of the ship and the collision of the ship.
So I'm here to talk about our research and what we actually did to ensure that we use NASA data in our challenge. So now on our research page, we did extensive research to find out what actually space debris means, because it's all good saying space debris, but what does it actually mean? How is it affecting humanity and space travel as a whole? So we found that space debris is just pieces of spacecraft, tiny flecks of paint from spacecraft, or even parts of rockets or satellites that aren't working. And we found this out from NASA's site and NASA's Center of Library for Space Debris. And as you can see on the presentation, we've given some examples of space debris. And yeah, basically, we used the research in our game to ensure that it portrays an accurate version of what actually space debris is.
But we didn't We didn't always go for complete accuracy. We also wanted a good representation.
A good balance.
Fun game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I forgot I'm controlling slides.
Yeah, so like, as Sean said, you know, things like paint specs, we felt that that would be like trying to like make it so the size is comparable, and then making it like fun would be like too much of a challenge. So we instead focused on like the larger pieces of space debris and implemented those into our game. We also looked at the Spacebirds CSV file to like figure out what countries are responsible for objects that are orbiting the planet, which is both like in operation satellites and debris. And like we use that and like put it into our game to say like, these are the countries responsible, so they should be attempting to like fund research to remove space debris from the atmosphere.
Can we actually do anything about this debris? Now, the debris is there. We have our problem. We've explained clearly like what the issue is. And now I'm going to speak a little bit about what we can actually do. So there are many methods to collect debris. So for example, we looked at the 3 most viable options. Our first option was we can use a net, just classic, like you get a net and you throw it at debris. This debris will then capture and then go into the atmosphere and obviously deteriorate in the atmosphere, destroying the debris. We can also use electromagnets. Now, this is a different kind of way of doing it, because right now it is possible, but it's obviously quite expensive, which is a downside. But this works by you attracting the pieces of debris using magnetic forces. The main benefit for this is that there's no physical touching components, which makes sure that our parts don't get damaged. Finally, we could use a harpoon gun. Now, this may sound really primitive, but we've done our research and we've seen that this is actually one of the viable ways of actually collecting debris or sending it into the Earth's atmosphere.
So obviously our game wasn't perfect, and there's some things that we would have preferred to have done that we didn't. So like, for instance, we only have like a net at the moment. We didn't like have enough time to implement other attachments, such as like a harpoon or a magnet. Also the economy, for selling, we only have like 4 things, which is selling metal alloys, extracting raw resources, like building rocket parts or habitat parts. Like with more of those like options, we could like show what you can actually do with the space debris. And finally, our gravity system, we did try to have a more complicated one, but then that ended up like looking weird. So we decided to use a simpler one that would look better for actually playing it.
And we also we would have liked to add more gameplay elements, such as for example, debris that can take out your spaceship, make it more difficult to collect. And I think that would have made the game more fun. And
overall, this was a...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, we also wanted to include some futuristic attachments to show kind of what might be possible in the future. For example, like a ray gun or a gravity gun or something like that.
Overall, this was just a massive learning experience for us, because we're all 16, 17. We haven't, like, we don't have as much experience as the people here, but we thought we could learn and, give it our best go. And we want to thank all of the NASA SpaceApps team for an amazing event.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah. For listening.
All right, so let's see if we have any...
Yeah, are there any questions?
Doesn't look like it, but I think we're a little behind schedule, so we're going to have to swap over to Southampton. But thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. See ya.
So next up, we have the presentations from Southampton, and I believe they should be connected and pulled up shortly. I may have jumped the gun. They are just sorting out some tech issues to get connected now. So in the meantime, I I hope everybody's been having a wonderful Space Apps. Don't forget, there will be a People's Choice nomination going on. I believe that can be voted online. I'm not entirely sure when that starts, but make sure to check the Space Apps website and see if your team gets elected for that. Hello.
I think the Southampton team is just joining now.
Looks to be, yeah.
Hello.
Cool. So now I'll pass this over to Hazel.
Okay, so whenever you're ready, guys, if you share your screen and get your presentation up.
And Anna, you sharing your screen again?
Yeah. Give me a second. Hopefully it captures the right screen. But
Are you waiting? Oh, perfect.
it should be this one. Yeah. Wait. Yeah.
Perfect.
Still, so our third member is currently having a few
I think Mario is having problems with his mic.
Yeah, quite major problems. So
not everyone needs to present, so if the easiest solution is for you guys to speak on his behalf, that's okay too.
Yeah. Okay. We can.
Okay.
We can go forward with that. So should we get started now?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Hi, we're Team Finding Jeb from Southampton, and we did the Orbital Sky challenge for the Space Apps. So our idea was to make a simple web app that would interact with a 3D satellite tracker. So it can be used on any device or whatnot. Simply connect and a physical satellite tracker would then move to a satellite that of your choosing.
Okay. So at the moment, there are similar projects. So there's satellite viewers, online web pages, which will show you a big list of satellites and information about them. And there's also satellite trackers, physical projects that point at satellites. But these both have their separate issues. The satellite viewers don't have a very broad range because only people who are looking for them will actually see them, which means that there's not a whole lot of engagement with the general public. On the other hand, the satellite trackers, again, have a similar problem. They're usually DIY projects, which means that you have to put in the hours to build one in order for you to actually be able to use it. And as well as that, they usually only track one satellite. So what we want to do is essentially crossover between the two. And that's sort of, and then if you move on to the next page. So, oh yeah, sorry, this was you.
Yeah. So we aim to be a lot more interactive and eye-catching than the other solutions available out there. Partly due to the fact that it can be so one of our target things would be something like a public place where you'd have a single physical tracker installed in a museum or something, and people just connect to the museum's network and have at it with the tracker. So you can literally choose a satellite off a globe view of satellites currently orbiting the Earth, and whichever ones you choose, you'll get an information pop-up of what the satellite actually is, what it's there for, and other information about it, so you can learn more about it fairly accessibly.
Yeah, and that's the key. We think the key to more engagement with the public is basically taking the best of both of the existing solutions and combining them together. So as for how we implemented that, it starts with the end user experience, which is what Anand is going to talk about.
Right. So the end user will, on their device that can access the browser, will see two things. On the left-hand side, a list of potential popular satellites and such. And on the right-hand side, a globe with the representation of the current satellite in orbit around that. They can simply click on any of the satellites there, and at the top of the screen they'll see information about where it is and such. Whereas to the left of it, they'll see a little info box pop up of stuff about what the satellite is doing. This, at the same time, it'll also send instructions over to the microcontroller, which is Harry's department.
Yeah, so and I guess I'll be covering the physical components as well, because Mario's having problems with his mic, and that was what he took care of. So essentially, the microcontroller will read over Wi-Fi. Will read a azimuth and elevation angle from the controlling PC, and it'll use that to control a pair of motors. So on the next slide, we should have a picture of my little test setup on my desk. We've got a stepper motor for controlling the base, and a servo motor that would control the actual pointer. And then this would be assembled into the actual satellite tracker, which means that you can point it north and at the horizon and everything. And then, so essentially takes a live reading from the PC of where it should point. So it's fully controlled by the user.
We realise that there's room to expand this, considering that we haven't fully finished it, thanks to not being able to be in person, considering one of us is in Mexico and two of us are in Southampton. So we haven't. So we can obviously integrate the whole thing as a single unit, build a real thing, and actually test and implement the real functionality between the microcontroller and web page. But yes, thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Nice presentation. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, nice work working around the mic issues as well. We don't have any comments showing up on YouTube just yet. Let's see if the next team is ready to come in yet. I think we're still waiting to hear from them.
So next up is, I believe, the Cambridge team. Cool. So they should be along shortly.
I think Cambridge is the last team to be presenting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then we will take a short break and go on to deliberation, and then we'll be announcing the winners for the UK teams.
I think it's 20 past that Cambridge will be coming. So shall we continue with the video from before?
Sure. Do let me know if there's any echo issues.
My second flight, we had a computer failure, and we were really surprised. It got voted out of the set, and we were really surprised when Mission Control said, put in the spare computer, take out the old one, put in the spare. So we got to change out the computer, and that's back behind the storage bins in the middeck. And I got to work that with Jerry, Mark Lee, and he was a big guy, so I figured he'd be doing all the work with the wrenches and stuff. But when we got into the actual repair, I had to get in there and get the work with the wrenches, because I was small enough I could fit in, and he couldn't fit in with his shoulders. Okay, so you're gonna the fun thing about working with groups is you're gonna run into all sorts of experiences, and you'll find out things about people that you had no idea.
Wow, this is amazing. And it's interesting thinking about all of the unexpected issues that might come up, or unexpected challenges. And I think oftentimes, from what I've heard at least, there are a lot of stories of what is awe-inspiring about space, which is, I'm sure we'll even spend some more time talking about that. But I wanted to ask this question from someone named Chitana, who's from India, and they asked, what major problems did you face while you were on your journey to space? So you mentioned the computer problems, but were there other challenges that came up? Either this person mentions related to sleeping, exercising, what you were eating. They really just wanted to know what were things that didn't go as well on your experience, or again, things that they might not know about as someone who's never been to space.
Well, I mean, you're always you expect the unexpected, and you don't get disappointed, because things don't always work when you're doing things for the first time. Things don't always work the way you expect them to. So, but there's a lot of fun too. It's sort of like if the spacecraft slips, and you can't re-enter, like on my second flight, we had a weather scrub. So we were up there for a day, and it was an extra day, and you end up eating your snacks for food because you didn't pack food for the whole trip.
Wow.
But so I lived on peanut M&Ms, and it was great. And if you can go fish. I mean, you pretend you're a fish because you just let them go, and you can grab them like a fish grabs food in water. It's fun.
Yeah. I'm curious about that, because one question we had during the Q&A with Katie Coleman at the start of the week was about just what soft skills that your role required. And it's interesting because you even mentioned a lot of the technical skills that you brought to the table, but are there certain soft skills that you would recommend to someone who is either aiming to become an astronaut or more generally aiming to work with NASA?
Well, I mean, there's a lot, when you're working in an area where there's a lot of stress, and you get stressful things. You don't have to be in a spaceship. Working in mission control,
right,
is stressful. And even, working I worked robotic spacecraft for a long time. And that in and of itself, because you have a very valuable system and you don't want to lose it, right? So it helps to have a sense of humor, just to break the tension. It really does.
Yeah. I'm curious if there's anything else in particular. So I think sense of humor is I can imagine a huge one that's helpful. And again, thinking about SPACEAPPS and the experience of working with teams more broadly, just looking at some of the overlaps there, it definitely helps to have a sense of humor. Things don't always go well. Things could be stressful at times, but I'm curious if there are any other quick tips you would give, or skills, because I'm sure there are a lot of different things that you might recommend from your experience.
Yeah, I mean, along with this sense of humor, I mean, how you really learn stuff is when things mess up. I mean, it's a problem, but it's an opportunity, and you can figure out workarounds and learn a lot that way. And so it's really it's important to do that.
Yeah. Building on that a little bit, there were a lot of questions that came up just about, as you can imagine, a lot of questions about how to become an astronaut, which you've touched on a little bit. But one person, Kevin from the country Colombia, asked or mentioned that His goal is to work as a project manager at NASA. So there's some people wanting to know if you have advice, not just for people in the US, but more broadly of ways that they could engage with NASA and maybe build toward their goal of working with NASA. I know you have that experience being an associate administrator at NASA too, while back on Earth after your mission. So I'd love to hear also if there's anything that that you'd recommend for people to take on some of those roles here on Earth with NASA.
Yeah, well, actually, the job that I had after I left the astronaut corps, I went to Goddard Space Flight Center, and I ended up being a project manager on a spacecraft, and we got to measure, well, we were trying to measure all the plants in the ocean because we wanted to understand how much carbon the ocean plants could take up. So you measure it with a spectrometer, just like you measure with a spectrometer in a lab for chlorophyll A, but you do it from a spectrometer from a spaceship. So I worked on that. The spacecraft ended up flying for a long time, over twice as long as we designed it, its lifetime. And it was a great project, and I made incredible friends. And the same thing, we were a small group of people that were working together under pressure, and we're still friends. I still drive back there to go to the Christmas party every year just to see everybody. So you don't necessarily have to be in space. It's just being part of the team that really matters, whether you're in a spaceship or on the ground. It's all fun. It's all fun.
Yeah, could you walk through that a little bit more? I think I'm lucky to have a window into like the experience of working at NASA, but I'd love to hear from you what that looks like. You mentioned Goddard, but also I mentioned headquarters earlier. And so could you just talk more about what that, well, one, how you went from being an astronaut in space to doing that work here on Earth? Because I think I've realized that that's something that's surprising for a lot of people. They don't realize that beyond your work in space, that there's more that happens here on Earth. So can you talk a little bit more about that transition just to start?
Yeah, well, that goes back to my space flights. And on my first space flight, I mean, you prepare ahead of time, and they all I was the environmental engineer. So, and these guys were all military test pilots and flight test engineers. And so they expected me to be looking out and waxing poetic about all beautiful Earth.
Yeah.
And, and they're the tough fighter pilot types. But what happened was, I'm an environmental engineer. So I looked down at the planet, and particularly, I can remember we were coming over Brazil and the mouth of the Amazon River, and I could see huge blooms of algae.
Yeah.
Happening from the nutrients coming out of the rainforest and then out into the Atlantic Ocean. And then we were trying to figure out why some of the algae, some of the reefs in the Caribbean were having trouble with fungal infections that were more like fungal infections from Africa. And sitting up on orbit, we could see dust storms coming off the Sahara and going over and right over the Caribbean Ocean. And so, I'm sitting there looking at all these environmental challenges, and the guys that are the fighter pilots, they're looking down and going, oh, isn't that beautiful? Because they don't see the problems.
Mm-hmm.
You see if you're trained, right? So it was exactly 180 out from what we expected. So after my second flight, which was Magellan, and I was working with the people at JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab,
right,
on that spacecraft, integrating it into the shuttle, and I got to know them. And I was actually going to try to go get a job in California working on environmental spacecraft. But my sister who was in Vermont on the East Coast, said, Mary, Mom and Dad are getting old and I'm here by myself because my younger sister and I had all gone out west. And she said, I need help back here. Couldn't get a job on the East Coast. So I said, I'll try. And I ended up moving to Goddard. And that working on an environmental spacecraft because I was so concerned about what was going on the planet. So that's what got me into the project management stuff. And then I got sent downtown after that project came in and was flying okay. I got sent downtown. Well, people have to build budgets and stuff, and you have to be able to defend budgets and convince people that what they're giving you the money to do is a worthwhile thing to do. So that's what I was doing downtown. So
great. And by downtown, do you mean
at headquarters? Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Maybe there's somewhere else.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries, no worries. I think it's good too for people to get a window just into that experience. And then at headquarters, I mentioned the just some of the work that you were doing there, but again, it's so amazing to me when I'm talking with participants as community manager for SPACEAPPS that so many of them have just so many questions and want to know more. They want to understand more. But one thing I wanted to ask about is just, again, about that experience when you were working on those projects more downtown at headquarters. Some people could only imagine what that looked like. So it would be great to hear a little bit more about that also.
Well, you're busy. You're busy. Because if you think about it, like when I was the associate administrator for science, well, first I went downtown or to headquarters, excuse me, to do a strategic plan for earth science, because we needed to have a big plan for how, and we do that by working with the National Academy of Sciences and stuff like that. So that was my first job. And then I ended up working all of science. So it was very interesting. Some of the astrophysicists were a little amazed that they had an environmental engineer running their program, but that's, right. But it worked out okay. It worked okay.
It definitely sounds like it and seems like it. And I think it's pretty poetic that now SPACEAPPS is within the Science Mission Directorate, and so many of our challenges focus on earth science, and they focus on just finding solutions that aren't only for space, which you could relate to issues in space and the experience in space, but also that they're focused on earth and addressing problems here. I'd love to hear if there's anything from the SPACEAPPS this year and the challenges that you found to be particularly relevant to your experiences.
Yeah, I like the observation topic, because that's what I worked on when I was a project manager, and then down with earth science and also space science. I mean, it's all pretty observation oriented, and but it's very busy, and you have a lot of things to think about. And also you can make, I mean, if you're observing out of a spacecraft, if you think about it, if you want to observe Mars, right, or the moon, or a faraway spacecraft, the instruments on a spacecraft have to be calibrated just like instruments in a laboratory do. So how do you calibrate, and how do you know what you think you're measuring is what you're really measuring? Well, that all takes real good coordination between the Earth observing group and the space science group, because Earth right now is the only planet that we can do ground truthing on. In other words, you go underneath the spacecraft and you measure what's really on the planet, okay? So you can use that to develop techniques that might go on and work on Mars or the moon, or a place where we can't do ground truthing yet. So
Yeah, I think one thing that's interesting for me is always how do we translate that experience that you have in space to this one weekend out of the year where people are working to create solutions for space apps. And I think I'll ask, because I'm not totally sure, but what is it that, are there certain things that you see, certain lessons from that experience that you see as transferable to participants in a 24 to 48 hour hackathon that's this hackathon happening this weekend?
Oh, absolutely. Because you're gonna, I mean, yeah, you're going to learn. No matter when you do something, you learn, and then it becomes a tool in your toolkit.
Mhm.
And the more tools you can get in your toolkit, the better off you are solving your next problem. So, I mean, you're building a toolkit your whole life.
Yeah. Another question, to return to the questions that we were asked through the Q&A. One question that was asked by Rosemary from Bulgaria is, did flying in space change your perspective of the world or your beliefs in any way? What did your missions teach you about life? Or what did your mission teach you about life?
Yeah, perspective-wise, I always was too Earth-centric, right? And then all of a sudden you realize that there's a huge, I mean, we're just teeny weeny, we're insignificant little spot in this huge universe. And I didn't have that perspective until on my first flight, I was the navigator. So they give you time at night to dark adapt your eyes in a bag looking out the window so the background light doesn't get you. And then they tell you to do this before you need to find your navigation stars, because you navigate a spaceship the same way you navigate ships on the ocean here, right? Because you're building your toolkit, and as a society with humans, we're building our toolkit. So we depend on the same kind of navigation tools for spaceships that they do in the old sailing ships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I looked out, and they tell you to do that because you're going to be able to see a lot more if you're outside the atmosphere. You don't have the atmosphere as a filter. And wow, I mean, there is so much stuff out there. Yeah, I mean, my perspective, how it really changed me was, my perspective was, there's no way we're the only life forms, guys. And that's what I said. There's no way. There's too much going on out there.
I wonder, actually, could you, like, how do you paint that picture of what space is like for friends, for family members who asked? Because again, it sounds like an awe-inspiring experience, and something that again, people could only imagine, people can't really fully picture. And thankfully we have a lot of images. I love to go to the NASA open image library for a lot of images and resources that show what it's like. But how do you actually communicate what it's like, or how do you describe space to people who, like me, might not be able to picture it fully?
Well, I mean, it's not just the picturing. I mean, it's the feeling of the closest thing to no gravity is if you've ever been underwater, weighted out so you're neutrally buoyant, so you're not floating up to the top, but you're just there. That's the closest thing to feeling no gravity. And weighing nothing's a lot of fun because you don't understand. Gravity is a huge force. I mean, you sort of come back and you go, you wonder why people aren't, like that, because it's just a huge force, but we don't appreciate this huge force because it's always been there for us. So it gets you interested in the physics of gravity too.
Yeah, and I think because of that, in part, there were different questions about just the physical experience, especially in space. So a question that I have to ask, and this is from Sharaya in India, and the question is, what did it feel like orbiting the Earth 172 times? that's a lot of times in such a short amount of time. And so what was that feeling for you physically or mentally as you were doing something that seems unbelievable really in so many ways, but obviously is something that you experienced?
Yeah, but well, when you're up in the spaceship,
Mhm.
you feel the acceleration for the ascent. You know, it's a good push. But once the main engine shut off, you're just floating. And even though you're going 25 times the speed of sound, you realize that when you look at how fast you're going over the Earth.
Mhm.
You know, you go across the United States in 7.5 minutes. So, you know you're cooking because you've been in an airplane and sat through that flight. So it's but you don't feel the forces because you're in a neutral gravity situation.
Yeah,
So,
please continue.
well, when you're coming back in, though, for reentry, when we were pulling a quarter of a G, I went to write something on my kneeboard, and it felt like my hand weighed 10 pounds. And I went, ooh, this isn't going to be fun. But then a switch happened in my brain. It was almost like my brain went, okay, this is a gravity field now, thud. And then I could navigate again. So that makes you think, at least made me think, we probably did evolve from organisms in the ocean because, you seem to recognize neutral buoyancy versus and no gravity versus a gravity field.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's powerful. And it all to me ties in with everything you're sharing ties in with this idea of education, because I think in my experience, even just going to NASA headquarters or going through the Air and Space Museum, which we were talking about a little beforehand, there are so many kids who are curious about space and about NASA. And I feel like I will, especially being in Washington, D.C., will see a lot of kids wearing the orange space suits that they sell. And so, one question we had thinking of kids especially was just about what advice you would give to educators who are trying to get students interested in space exploration. And that question came from Angel in Mexico. So I would love to hear any advice you'd have for educators as they look to really drum up excitement around space for their students.
Well, I try to get, there are two things I do with people that they seem to get very excited about. Mm-hmm. And space. And the first one is watching a launch. And those opportunities are available because you get to see the rocket take off, and then you get to feel the pressure wave. So you get to see the difference between the speed of light and sound in a very visceral way. And then the other thing that gets people excited is just going out and looking at the stars. If you can get in a place that doesn't have a lot of light pollution, that you can find planets with people, and it gets them. It helps them have the perspective of this place isn't that big, and there's a lot out there.
Yeah, this is powerful. And I'll say before even just responding to that if anyone has questions, a number of people are watching live, feel free to drop them into the chat as you watch on YouTube, and we will touch on some of those as we go along. But one question or something I want to mention actually before getting to the next question is just that you mentioned going to watch a launch. And so over the last 9 years or so of SPACEAPPS, one of the awards, one of the global awards, one of the ways that people are recognized is with the opportunity to go to watch a launch in person. And I think it's powerful to hear people's experiences after they've done that, because it is something that people all over the world are looking forward to doing. And so actually one question I wanted to ask in relation to that is just what what it's like on the other end of a launch, on the end where you're going up into space.
You know, inside the spaceship?
Inside the spaceship.
Well, I flew on the shuttle, so that's
Yeah.
different than the systems they have now. On the shuttle, it would tip when the main engine started. So it would tip, and then it was perfectly timed. So when it came back up straight, so you're on your back and you're looking up. So you just go tip, tip, up, and then your solid rocket motors went off, and then you're off. And it's pretty slow at first, but then you have to rotate heads down, and you're actually flying to space upside down. So when we got up on orbit, even though I knew there was no gravity, and I had to fight with myself to undo the seatbelt, because I was going, if I undo this, because I felt like, well, because you leave heads down, I felt like I was going to fall on my head, but I didn't. So.
Wow. Yeah. One question we have in the chat from Bridget is, was it hard to adjust once you were back on Earth? And just a follow-up I want to ask to that is, did you feel like you ever fully adjusted and were the same after you came back from your space travel? And if so, just when did things kind of come back to normal?
Okay. For about the first week after you get back, you have to be careful, because you get used to not weighing anything, and then all of a sudden you weigh something. So for instance, you have to remember when you're in the shuttle, there's a hole in the ground, and up on orbit, you just dive through the hole to go up to the flight deck or down to the mid deck. When you get back on the ground, you got to remember that you got to take the ladder, because you're going to fall on your head if you just dive through the hole. So you remind each other of that. And then you hold on, because you go down the stairs and you don't want to fall down, and you're not used to managing the weight against gravity. So it takes about a week, but I had to buy a new mattress, because the first night sleeping in a bed in a gravity field, my mattress was too lumpy.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't noticed it before I flew.
It's like little things that people wouldn't necessarily expect about going to space. But I think that's the thing that a lot of people seemingly find interesting, because we had so many of those specific questions, and it's great to be able to have you address those. And you touched on a question. We had a question by Lisa from Brazil, who I see in the chat here. And the first part of the question was, what went through your mind when you entered the capsule and after you left the atmosphere? But I think you've touched on that a bit. The second part of the question, which I think is a great one and a common question, what would you say to young people who dream of being astronauts?
I think it's important to study stuff that you find really interesting, because that way you'll pursue it and you'll really get to know it well. If you try to pick things that you think that they want rather than what you want, I don't think you're going to be as successful. And also, if you don't happen to get a billet in the astronaut corps, you're going to be stuck doing something you don't want to do anyway. So, I mean, when I was hired, and I'm old enough that environmental engineers used to be called sanitary engineers. Okay. So when I was hired, we were all introducing ourselves to each other, and everybody else that was hired to do research, there were a lot of medical doctors, astrophysicists, chemists, all these things. And then I was a sanitary engineer, and all of my classmates were going, why did they hire her? But all the old guys that had flown in space, the Apollo guys and stuff, they all just had a little smirk on their face, because they knew if you put that many people in a place the size of a closet with no gravity, you're going to have sanitation problems. And I got to work all those. Now, I would have not known to do that. I would just, ended up doing what I was interested in. So you can't tell. You can't really try to focus on what you want to do because of that's what they want. It has to be that's what you want.
Yeah, this was a common question we have, so I'll share this other question, and it was phrased differently by a couple of people. One person who asked was Ada in Turkey, another is Gina in Nova Scotia. So again, questions from all over the world, really. But do you have any suggestions specifically for high school students who want to become astronauts?
Well, one thing that I think was really helpful, I played team sports in high school. I played field hockey and lacrosse, and trying to work either to win a game or solve problems in a team, they're transferable lessons that you learn. And so anything that's team oriented, I think would be a good idea.
Yeah, and I think that also brings in SPACEAPPS, which is a good opportunity for people to well, not only work in teams, which is powerful, but also to work on a project with a team over the course of, I would say, what could be a pretty sometimes intense period of time for people. When you're working against a deadline, there's always that pressure, and that's one thing that the participants experience in the hackathon. And so participants will start their work at about 9 a.m. local time on Saturday and conclude at midnight, or as I say, to avoid confusion, 11:59 p.m. Local time on Sunday. And over that period of time, the teamwork is so crucial and critical. You were mentioning astronauts earlier, and one thing that came up in talking with Katie was just other astronauts and the dynamic there. What is it like to be part of this astronaut community? And are there any interesting stories that would shed a light into what that's like?
It was a privilege. It is a privilege to be around the people that I worked with, but not only in the Corps, but also at NASA. They're a bunch of smart people, and they like solving problems. So it was a good match for me. But I think that if you would like to do that, you have to understand the differences and your own personality. Because let's say I was studying science and I thought I was going to get a PhD in science, but one of my employers, who was an engineer, I worked for him for 3 years because I worked my way through school, so I had to make money to pay for my tuition. And he watched me working, and he said, "Mary, you're too impatient to be a good scientist. You need to be an engineer. You want to solve problems, and then go on and work on the next one, the next one, the next one." And if you can get yourself in situations where you're working for people, if they give you advice, try to listen to them, because a lot of times they can see things in you that you can't see in yourself.
That actually brings me to one of the questions, another question that we had in the chat, which comes from, I believe it's pronounced Shaziana K, who asked, who or what have been your greatest inspirations over your lifetime? It's a big question. So who or what have been some of the greatest inspirations over your lifetime? What mentors have you had? And so I think that's a great place to start with the question. Has there been anyone who's served as that inspiration or mentor for you?
Oh yeah, I've been really fortunate to be around some incredible in high school, junior high school. Junior high school, I had a biology teacher named Mr. Jenkins, and he was incredible. And then I had in high school, I had a physics teacher named Dr. Love, and he was incredible. He got in trouble with the other teachers because he'd have us running around throwing balls out of the second story of our high school and calculating trajectories and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so and a good coaches on the teams I played on. So I've had good teachers and good mentors all the way through, including college also, and it makes a huge difference. And then when I got down to the core, John Young, who was head of the astronaut office, he came back after the first shuttle flight, and he called me in his office and he said, "Mary, the head didn't work, fix it." And so that was my job. Wow. And what happened was, I didn't realize it, but I worked really hard with the engineers. We got it straightened out on the second flight. And when John gave me that job, he didn't, it didn't ever talk to me about it, but he always took care of me. My assignments were always good after that, because after I left NASA and retired, I saw him one time, and it's sort of like, you give somebody a nasty job and they do it with, enthusiasm and, do a good job, and then you take care of them because they do good work for you. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's powerful. And it's good to think, I'm just thinking about this idea of appreciating the people that you're working with on the team, and like thinking about SPACEAPPS, for instance, is one example, but obviously that's transferable to a lot of different dynamics. One thing that sticks out for me is that, the way that people form teams, one person might say, "I want to form a team," and then welcome people to join their team. And so you do have really someone who's a leader on the teams. And it is good to take time, not just to push and focus on what needs to get done, but also on how you take care of people, how you appreciate people within doing that work. And a lot of the successful teams we've seen at SPACEAPPS have been those teams that have, as you can imagine, a positive dynamic like that. So that definitely speaks to that. But I want to ask another question from chat, and as we slowly come to a close in the next handful of minutes, a question from Marco in the chat. Marco asked, and I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit, but what are your thoughts, Mary, on the future of, well, I'll say more broadly on the future of space exploration, but I believe this person was asking about the future launch and asking about some of the rockets. Is there anything in particular you're especially excited by when you see the work of NASA continuing and see see space exploration continuing?
Yeah, I think, well, if you look at the rovers that they're getting ready to put on Mars, and then now they're talking about going back to Venus, which I like because I worked on Venus spacecraft. But this next Mars rover is going to have a little helicopter on it. Mm-hmm. And they're going to test that because when the guys went to the moon, they had a moon buggy, and it was a pretty rough ride. So they figure if they can give them a little helicopter, it'll be a lot better. So that looks like fun. And so they have to design this helicopter that'll fly in a Martian atmosphere. That's all fun.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different advice that you have for the participants of SPACEAPPS, but as we start to come to a close, I just wanted to open the floor and see if there's any other advice or any other wisdom, go-to NASA resources you might want to point people to as they start their hackathon journey.
Well, I mean, there's a launch at Wallops tonight. They're resupplying space station, so you could watch that on a NASA TV live stream if you wanted to. It's not like being there, but it's better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
And then just enjoy your experience, because if you have fun doing whatever project you're doing, I think you do better at it if you just don't get too tight and tense and just sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's powerful advice, but
Okay, we're coming back on, folks. We have deliberated, and there is a winner, which we're gonna be announcing. Any words from my co-leads?
So before the winner is announced, so congratulations to all participants. So not only local winners or you that who have participated in any of the cities. I think that was an intense weekend for all of you, and the proposal has been great. So we have really nice project that can become a reality in the future. So please keep investing your time on these ideas. If this is not the one who become like a business or profitable idea, no worries that the learning path that you get, it will be the foundation for the next one. So please carry on, and yeah, congratulations to everyone. Any
Alex?
additional words?
Or Hazel? Or Aways?
Yeah, I mean, you said it great, but yeah, thank you everyone for coming along and all the effort that you put in this weekend.
Yes, I'd just like to add what my colleagues have said. It's great to have you over this weekend take part in space challenges. These are big challenges that even space agency are looking for solutions. So you worked on it, and it collaborated across the globe. So it was really nice. And I would also like to thank the judges and other local leads as well. Did a fantastic job.
Yep, same here. Thank you everyone for all of your work over the weekend. It's been really brilliant seeing all of the projects that you've been working on. And yeah, congratulations.
And before we announce the winner, another reminder to all the teams to make sure that you submit your project by 11:59 p.m. UK time for global judging. And good luck to everyone. I guess we're gonna bring the winner in, and the lead for that city has the honor of announcing.
So it was a really great presentations, and I would like to announce Duncan as UK national winner for SpaceApps 2020. Duncan, over to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I'm just delighted. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy with that. I could probably do with a nap now, but I need to submit the other project and the global stuff now. But yeah, no, I'm absolutely thrilled, delighted by that. Just hope everyone you can use the application and explore.
Yes, I will post the application on the YouTube link. So if anyone wants to use the application, they're more than welcome to. Duncan, what's the plan for the future? How are you going to develop it further and get it into a big band?
Just hopefully get a functioning platform just that helps explain everything from small stuff to the more complicated stuff, and provide a good visualization, a good educational platform that can be used in business as well to help explain to customers and clients what's actually going on and what they're purchasing.
Awesome. Great.
So congratulations again, Duncan. I'm bringing back other co-leads. And Hazel, we want to mention the runner-ups as well. We're doing it in reverse order. We're all tired, folks. Sorry about that.
Yes, it was a very close call between the first and second place. Jen, sorry, would you be able to mute? I think it's echoing on your side, Jen. Thanks. Perfect. Yes, so the second place goes to the Southampton team with their Finding Jeb project. And congratulations to that team. It was really nice to see something that's been prototyped and is almost ready to be up and running. And we think it's really promising being able to put something that people can see in a public place and physically interact with. It's quite an interesting change from a lot of the digital projects this year.
Fantastic, yeah. So congratulations to the winner and runners and participants. So only to mention that the winner will receive a machine trophy. So actually, thanks to one of our sponsors, Metal, that will machine actually now with your name on it and send it to you. So you will have the pleasure to have a full custom 2020 NASA Space App Challenge trophy. And for the rest of the local winners, so I think it's Southampton University sponsor the resin 3D printing trophy, right, Hazel?
Yep, that's right. We'll be doing some small resin 3D printed trophies for all of the local winners.
And I just want to mention that the third runner-up, yeah, am I saying this? The second runner-up is London Team Spirit. So congratulations to you folks as well.
Great. It's been a fantastic weekend. Yeah, so glad to be part of it. I'm so glad to be part of this space sector. I would like to encourage participants to share their enthusiasm to other people now and grow Space Apps Challenge for next year and have more cities across UK participating and innovating in these large challenges. And thank you all. And yeah, have a good evening.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. See you next year.